Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your rambling geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I am delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's our resident moonshine specialist of the pod, DL. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Making some moonshine in the back there?
No, not a big drinker until this bachelor party 3 weeks from now is done. I'm gonna stay.
God, I thought you were talking about yours. I was whoa, that's not in 3 weeks'
That's
time.
in like 6 months at least. No. I am not a moonshine maker. Although I'm not sure you're delighted to be here as much as depressed to be here after this movie.
Well, I literally only got out the movie. We started on Monday, and we've only just
dude, the hangover from this one's deep. Like,
I can't tell if I've had a bit of a shitty week in work or I'm literally still feeling the effects of this film.
Like, today was like a tough day. I'm like, why?
Yeah. So I tried to watch a bit of comedy before we started. Like, we'll talk about it probably next week. But you know, Pete Holmes. You know, Pete Holmes did the Batman stuff on YouTube, where it's like Batman can't stop thinking about sex, or they did the Batman versus Superman skit. That guy. And I normally find him really funny, but I think my brain's just broken from this goddamn Killers of the Flower Moon movie.
That's the point. I think we'll see.
I know. Well, we'll talk about it. But this, by the way,
for viewers that would know, this was on my most anticipated list like 2 years in a row.
Oh my god! It almost lasted that long.
I mean, can you imagine hyping something up that much and then going to this movie and being like, it's that big of a depressed fest?
For anyone who doesn't know, every year at the beginning of the year, we do top 5 movies that we're most excited for the year. And literally, you've been so excited for this for so long.
I mean, service level, Western, crime, mystery,
everything.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Scorsese. I mean,
it's got everything.
You gotta. That's a hype soup, hype pie, hype. What do you call a mix of things?
It's a casserole. It's a casserole of all your hypes. Is that right? The casserole's a bit
I don't know, man. I'm not
a
casserole guy.
It's a cocktail.
Casserole as a name is not
love a casserole.
It's a pretty gnarly name, though.
Why so?
Something about the word casserole just sounds gross.
You're just depressed by this movie.
No.
Like, I think we talked about this off air, but I feel like some movies are literally made to be an experience, and some movies are made to entertain. And this is kind of neither. It's just supposed to make you feel a certain way, and that's it.
I think it would count as an experience.
Yeah, it is. I'm being
but I feel like
facetious.
The best movies are both. Is that a controversial take?
I would agree.
The best movies are both.
I mean, you can have movies that are just entertainment that are fun and you can enjoy.
Yeah, the best ones are both, because when you make a good story out of it in a way that makes you have an experience and question the things that I think this movie makes you want to investigate and think about, but also do it in a way where you retain it longer and it's sharper and it hits harder.
Interesting.
I think that has a bigger effect rather than just like,
it's certainly
this is super intentional for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting watching this, which is super intentional and everything is laid out, comparing it to last week where we talked about The Swarm, which was 3 hours itself and just ramble.
Or just like even comparing it to like other Scorsese movies that have like really, really like developed and I guess
we're getting too far into it, dear. Let's hold off. Let's hold off a little bit till we get to the main topic. I want to talk to you first, man. I know we're excited to talk about this film that neither of us know exactly what to say. But guys, before we get into it, there will be time codes in the description. And as always, they will be provided by friend of the show and editing master, Mr. Matthew Bliss. Stick around. We'll give you his details at the end of the show. But DL, I have a quick question for you before we get into, talking about the stuff we talk to. On a scale of 1 to 5 hours long, how long more of this movie would you want to watch if you had the opportunity?
30 minutes to an hour less. Like, it was literally 3.5 hours.
Kidding, of course. I'm a bit facetious.
I think it is 3.5 hours, isn't it? Isn't that the runtime?
It's 3.5 hours, just under. Yeah, guys, we'd love it if you give us a 5-star review. We can't give this movie 5 hours, unfortunately. But if you could give us a 5-star review, you can do it right there in app. You're in Spotify, you're in Apple. Whatever you're in, you can do it right there. It really, really helps us. We don't have to tell you how algorithms work. But DL.
Nor could you.
What have you been up to? Wow. Could you please tell me about algorithms?
What have I been up to?
I can tell you the YouTube algorithm has hated all of my recent videos. I can tell you that.
You're not hitting the right buttons.
I don't know what it is.
Go watch a Mr. Beast video on how to make a YouTube video.
I mean, I don't hate that guy.
Really?
I don't hate that guy.
How can you hate him?
I respect him for what he's achieved.
It's a grind. What he's doing isn't fun anymore.
Yeah, it's none of it's fun anymore. it started off kind of interesting, but I didn't like that whole "I'll give you $1,000" thing. Walking up to someone in the street, like I find it grotesque in a weird way.
I understand that, but you gotta respect it.
I respect it 100%. Like fair play to him. He's the first person I've ever heard speaking about YouTube who says, think about like most of the YouTube audience doesn't speak English. I was like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe no one else made that point.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating guy.
He's very intelligent.
And his life is focused on just making more and more content. The way I would love mine to be.
It would be stressful to do that though, and only care about hits and not care about like, I'm sure he cares about the art of it because it is an art to him to get the hits. Like, you know what I mean? But surely I think I've actually heard him talk about like on a podcast that he wants to get into like longer form,
interesting
artistic stories.
Like we do. Talking about Killers of the Flower Moon.
Anyway, what did you ask me?
What have you been up to, DL? What did you ask me? What are we up to in this podcast?
Not all that much, man. I mean, since our last recording, it was late. So I'm trying to think of what maybe I've done the week before last, and it's all a blur.
You're a blurry guy.
Yeah, I did a bit of, I did all the common stuff. I did actually a bit of reading and writing. I started
Oh, tell me about your writing. We've talked about this before. So for anyone who doesn't know, anyone new to the podcast, DL fancies himself as a bit of a writer. And I'm excited to see what he comes up with. I like
to do it for fun.
Yeah.
I was inspired by like a couple things around...
You'll never finish anything.
Yes, that too. Around some of this AI stuff and like some of the stuff around... what would happen if you had like a double apocalypse? A lot of this Graham Hancock stuff where it's like you think you're thinking about one apocalypse, but actually two happened, and you have like a 2 timeline story that invests it, and it's kind of misleading, right? It misleads one to the other.
So, for example, what? Give me like an example.
Like you see, and in this story, in this thing I've been working on or trying to write, it's about like you're following somebody who's at basically near modern day.
Paperback writer. Sorry, I had to do that. Carry on.
You're following someone who's kind of near modern day as he's like trying to basically gain control of some pretty powerful tech back from the government.
Ooh.
And he's like, it's like the last fart of democracy.
It's like
in a postmodern world that's not too far from now.
Okay.
And
everything's there.
And we don't know. Yeah, we don't know really. And then the other timeline is like this way, hundreds of years later world that's reemerged since some kind of event. Ooh. And in this other world, like basically humans are really siloed from each other. It's kind of like Red Rising in that way, actually. Now that in a certain, I'm only 20 pages in, but I can get the point of where this is going with Red Rising.
Yeah.
And basically AI are actually like paired up with humans. And it's been this like, at some point in time, this thing called the grid powers AI, and everybody is don't
give away all your secrets.
Every
by
community
the way. Don't give away all your secrets. People might steal this.
What?
So one listener might hear this.
5 listeners can. Every community is like
we love you guys.
Is paired up with an AI, and they're not exactly sure how it's been trained because it's been like years and years of being in their civilization, and they're not like sure. And so that's kind of the mystery. Is like
so it's the creator
investigating other societies and also investigating like how the AI that they work with has been built.
Will the US government eventually get scared of them and try and take them out?
Yes, probably.
So it's the creator. Well, we talked about it 4 weeks ago. You can just remake that.
They will fail.
Will they find them?
Anyway, so I wrote a bit of a chapter on that, as it's like one of the communities like searching for another community.
Interesting. So how are you going about writing it? Is it from first person perspective? Like, are you trying to write chapters, or have you got a whole story mapped out?
I don't have a whole story. I have like beats. The hardest part is like I actually don't know what like the crescendo is at all at this point.
Man, that's the worst. You need to know that.
Kind of not though. Every writing course I've taken, it's like you kind of really need to like find your characters and they find their journey, and that can drive. Like you obviously want to have some like idea, but like a lot of times that comes through inspiration through characters.
Have you read a lot of books on writing?
I've read
the hero's journey and all these things.
Yeah, I took a class.
Oh, okay, fancy pants.
I'm not an expert, mate, but I was just inspired by. I was inspired by something in particular that I saw about like AI, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like just the training data sets, how they can be like falsified and fed, and then like how if you left AI to its own devices within a certain type of human community that only gave it certain inputs, how that would actually change how
it's Chappie.
Something
you're writing Chappie. I see now.
Chappie. What's Chappie?
Chappie is by the guy who did District 13.
I don't know.
District 9? District 13? What am I talking about?
District 13.
It's effectively an AI robot who was built to be a police unit and then gets accidentally set loose and becomes like friends with like gang members from South Africa. It's really interesting.
That's super random.
Such a weird film, but maybe we should put it on one of our lists. Maybe our sci-fi list. It got pretty panned when it came out, but like visually it's really stunning and it's got some really interesting ideas behind it. I think it's what you're talking about.
No, I've got this is too hard a thing to write the first time, because every writing class I've ever taken and every book I've ever read about writing is like the first time you write a story, like just do one point of view. Okay. And the story I want to write is like definitely multi-point of view. So it's like I write like a little bit when I have an inspiration, and then I'll come back to it when I actually have time to.
How far are you in?
Probably got like 2 or 3 different little chapters that I've written.
3 chapters
isolated, but I've written more for my like the Western thing I'm trying to write. That's easier.
Okay.
Because it's like one character. Yeah.
Maybe we should just carry on with that. Bust that out first.
I just write when I am inspired, bro. Whenever I can, when I write something. But anyway, that's all I really did, because I did it yesterday morning since we watched this movie. I have no other anecdotes.
Oh, I've got a couple of things I watched. I can chuck a couple at you. We managed to squeeze a couple of bits in. So this was actually after recorded last time, but before we watched the film that took up the rest of our week.
Yeah.
We watched a newish movie on Netflix called The Reptile. So it's Benicio del Toro. It's got Justin Timberlake. It's got a couple of like that guys in it as well, like a couple of people who you'd recognize, but probably can't remember what they've been in.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's
audience score higher than Tomatoes.
It's got 6.8 on IMDb. Like, it's not bad. It's interesting. It just doesn't. It's just kind of long and doesn't feel like it's really going anywhere.
Apparently, it's an underwhelming story.
Yeah. That's it. Those are the perfect words for this film.
Great performances by a few characters, but with an underwhelming story ultimately.
And then, like, it's a little bit like I would liken it to, in like a significantly worse way, The Departed. Yeah. You know how like The Departed goes all the way through, and it's like all this tension's ramping up, and then nothing really happens. Then you get like a bit of a crescendo, and then kind of everyone dies at the end.
Fucking happens.
It's a bit like that.
A lot happens in that movie.
I mean, I've been really nice to it here. Like, nothing really happens all the way through, and then there's like a big thing at the end, and you go, all right. I was just disappointed because if you look at the
trailer's intriguing.
Benicio del Toro has got his arm behind his back, but I thought he only had one arm. So the whole way, I was like, when does he lose an arm?
You're an idiot.
Like the whole way through I was watching his film, he got like 2 hours in, and I was like, he's not going to lose an arm, is he? I'm really upset
could have just had like a gun behind his back or something.
No, he's in like a mortuary and he's just got his arm behind his back. And I'm like, when did he lose his arm?
Didn't lose an arm.
No, he didn't. I'm just looking at the director while we're talking. I don't think he's got anything of note in his.
I mean, it's Netflix. They're just giving him out these days.
Yeah, Grant Singer. It wasn't bad. He's known for doing a Weekend. He's the Starboy song with The Weeknd and Daft Punk is the video for that. He's got a bunch of music videos. Yeah, nothing really of note.
Directorial debut. No, I didn't. I haven't watched it. It's on my list, but I don't know if I will.
You don't need to.
Yeah, I don't know if I will.
It's good, but Benicio's good in it.
I just like him, and I also like Justin Timberlake in a couple movies. So
no, he's really looking his age. He's starting to get there. It's sad. It's a sad time of life. Apparently, he's close to being cancelled as well right now.
From what?
Britney Spears' new book. Apparently.
Oh, whatever, dude. Yeah. You believe what she's saying?
I don't know, man. She keeps doing things with knives on the internet.
I'm just like, if she's the source, I'm not buying it.
Well, I did
40 years later or whatever.
Well, I don't know, man. Like,
look, whatever.
I know nothing about it, so I can't comment. I'm not that guy.
No one knows anything about it, but all I'm saying is I don't know that she
fully knows
what's going on either.
Yeah, well, look, she had a tough life. Let's be fair. I mean, a lot of child celebrities do, man. Like, it's fucked.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm not gonna like cancel it. I'm not gonna not watch The Reptile because Britney Spears wrote in a memoir 30 years later that. No, she wanted to get an abortion and he didn't let her or something?
You're not going to watch it because it's dull and long.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, that's why. Yeah.
So the other thing I did watch, which you might be interested in, is Gen V. I watched one. I think it's 5 episodes out. I watched the first one.
Offshoot of whatever.
It's The Boys spin-off. Yeah. It's The Boys, but it's college time, baby. Everyone's super young and everyone's new to their powers and learning what they're doing and yada, yada. To be honest with you, I had to watch it in 2 sittings. The first time I sat down to watch it, I got halfway through and I was like, this is so like tropey.
It's not good.
But then the second half of that first episode, it's quite a long first episode. Like those Boys episodes are about an hour-ish each. So when I sat down to watch the second half, I got way more into it. And I was like, oh, this is just the Boys, but with different people. I genuinely really like this. There's a bit of an intrigue in the background. There's there's this thing that's happening in the woods. And the guy who is running the academy is a bit creepy as well. I was like, oh, this has more to it, but not enough that I've gone back to carry on with it yet, but I think I will.
Compared to The Boys.
The Boys is just a given.
But it's like how much?
It's just Boys light.
Is it like Scrubs in med school?
No.
Or is
No. It's like if you get an app and it's a very good app, and you're, oh, this is the light version. I'll get the full one, and then you get the full one. And you go, wow, this is really cool.
Is it Blood of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
Wait, you think House of the Dragon's better than worse than Game of Thrones?
I think it's potentially slightly worse than the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones. Maybe better than the 4th.
It's fair. Yeah. I like
5th. Whatever the 5th one is, bad.
I'm told it gets better. So I'll give it. I'll probably give it a go later.
You can't say yet from one episode,
but I can't say that from one episode. From what I've seen, I would say
your hypothesis.
My initial viewing experience was first half bad, second half good, 50-50.
Your hypothesis is it's going to be somewhere between Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, and Scrubs Medical School. Somewhere in between that level.
I mean, that's the polar opposite ends.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So somewhere in the middle, because Game of Thrones is like one of the best spinoffs ever.
Sure.
I would say with House of the Dragon. Don't you? Like, when have you had a spinoff that's been almost as good as the real thing?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very good question. Better Call Saul's apparently amazing.
Yeah.
That's the first one I can think of.
But also, I've never watched it.
I really liked Med School Scrubs. You can probably guess from
Okay. Moving on.
I watched. Yeah. I can't recommend it right now.
Okay.
Give it a couple more episodes and I'll come back to you. But then by the time I get around to watching the other episodes, I feel like The Boys will be out anyway, and I'll just watch The Boys.
Probably not.
That's what I want. I just want to watch The Boys. Give me more of Starlight, or is that a name? Stardust? Starlight.
You're a big fan of Starlight.
And Jack Quaid. Give me more Jack Quaid. Give me more of like Homelander. I want all that
Homelander's
stuff.
who I want.
He's so good. All the memes are insane. Hey, look, guys, if there's anything we haven't talked about that you would recommend or you think we should talk about, feel free to hit us up. You can hit us at Podcast Assemble on Instagram or the podcastassemble@gmail.com. Or go to our website, www.podcastassemble.com. All our details are there. You can find us. We're all over the place.
Podcasts and
Then there's memes. Do you want things and podcasting stuff?
And
I need to put more stuff on there. It's been a little hot minute.
Yeah.
But DL.
It's the main topic theme.
Do you want to preface our main topic?
Our main topic this week, as I've already spoiled, is Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring for the first time, I think, ever, Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio in a Scorsese film.
I think it's the third time they've worked together, but I don't know about a Scorsese film. That's interesting.
Which is interesting because he's done 5. What's his name's done 6 now. What's his name's done 8 or 9 now.
They've done a lot. It's interesting. Scorsese has pumped out a lot of films.
Yeah, he has. I still haven't seen The Irishman.
No, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to non-spoilers and very brief spoilers at the end because there's not a huge amount to spoil about this film, but do you have a stupid plot summary?
Long and lots of death.
I mean, it's very just factual.
It's not necessarily dumb.
Well, mine is...
It dumbs it down
Mine's a little bit dumb. Mine's just the longest game of Clue ever, but with the twist that everyone's in on the whodunit, and just no one's willing to guess who the killer is.
Yeah, it's kind of like that is, you know what? You just helped me put a pin on something that bugs me about it. It's like, guys, how fucking dumb are we? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no,
for 3.5 hours, we're sitting there over the course of what is perceived to be decades or a decade.
I think it's this film isn't that long. It's like 5 years or something.
Half a decade?
Yeah.
I mean, like.
Well, I'm interested to know what you think. Is everyone just scared?
I guess like that would have been an interesting thing to explore, but we didn't really explore that because Robert De Niro is mostly looked at as like a friendly character.
Well, let's talk a little bit about everyone then. So this is a lot of kind of new actors to the game. There's a couple who've got previous roles, but a lot who don't. So Blackie, who is one of my favorite characters in the whole movie, whose name I actually have not written down for some stupid reason.
He was good.
He doesn't have another acting credit to his name. So like there's a lot of like fresh people getting, opportunities with a huge director. I like that not everyone was like picture perfect looking in this. Like not everyone was a beautiful man. There was a couple of standouts for me. Byron Buckhart, who was played by Scott Shepherd, who was the brother, I believe, of Leonardo DiCaprio's character. I think he was the brother. Yeah. And then Ty Mitchell played John Ramsey, who was the dude. Do you know the guy who did all the dirty work, who was like stick thin with the amazing mustache and the milky eye? Like,
yes,
what an interesting guy.
What else is he in? He's in something else.
I don't think he's in a lot of things.
Oh, he's for sure in something else, though. I've seen his fucking face.
I like that Scorsese's gone with like a lot of new quotation marks actors for this. What do you think about that?
I thought it was. I didn't realize that they were all new, so I thought he just casted really well.
Well, I mean, it is cast very well.
What? I'm sorry. I'm just looking up. He's in True Grit? Maybe. I don't remember. I really liked the castings. I just thought we spent too much time with certain characters and not enough time with other ones that were really well casted. That would be my initial critique.
Well, top level thoughts on the film then. What did you think about this film? I know we kind of talked about it, but
how about Brendan Fraser, by the way? What a fucking cameo.
He was in this too.
He was phenomenal.
What an interesting sort of like in and out character.
I wish he was in it more.
Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him in a minute.
Yeah.
What did you feel?
What did I feel? I felt like
tired.
I wanted to die.
There was just so much death in
I
this.
just felt like this was a really sad movie that was supposed to be sad and supposed to make you feel like shit and intentionally like put you through the experience of what it would be like to be an indigenous, or as best you could with a film, empathize with the indigenous perspective of probably knowing everything that was happening and being able to do nothing about it as everyone dies around you.
It's like just brutal.
Yeah. Like I think that was
I came out of this feeling traumatized,
which is what I think you're supposed to feel. Cause it's like, that's what happened to them.
Completely agree.
So yeah, I mean, like, what did I think about it? I think it did that effectively.
Agreed. I guess to sort of frame it for anyone who doesn't know what this movie is, it's set in the 1920s in Oklahoma. And when the Osage, am I saying that right? The Osage tribe strike oil, the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples, they become cash rich. And funnily enough, guess what happens when you become cash rich? White folks come sniffing around. And it's effectively follows like this random character who's joining the party late, Leonardo DiCaprio's Ernest Buckhart, and he effectively has to learn the ropes through his uncle King, who is played
coming
by
back from
De
the
Niro.
war.
Yeah,
which war is it?
It would be the First World War, I believe,
in the 20s. Yeah.
So it's effectively him learning the ropes from the worst possible person to learn the ropes from.
Yes, and it's not clear that he's the worst possible person right away.
Yes,
I mean,
well, it is.
It is pretty clear within like an hour, maybe less,
of this 3.5 hour movie,
maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You start to figure it out, but like not right away when you're introed to him.
Agreed. And effectively, it's about like a couple of families who are, like I say, cash rich, and they are just being killed off. Yeah. And it's not made particularly into a mystery. It's not a whodunit. It's just more like, why isn't anyone doing anything about this?
Well, don't you think that would have been a more interesting investigation? Making it a bit less clear?
Well, I think what would have been interesting is if everybody knew and the FBI who come in way too late knew, and they try to do this, just not very effectively for me. Make it about them having to find ways to out people and get people to rat on the family, rat on the king effectively. And he just didn't get that, in my opinion.
You got that at the end.
Yes.
Not throughout.
For like scraps of the movie. It was more about another dead person and someone going, ah!
Yeah.
That was like every 15th frame, there was someone screaming about another dead person.
Yeah. I mean, the acting portrayal by Leo, I think, is really good in the sense that he's playing like someone who's conflicted, but also
talk to me about Leo, because I think he's a really interesting character.
I thought his performance was good. I just thought there wasn't that much, like it was a bit redundant.
Funny teeth.
They fuck his teeth up for this.
Yeah, it took me a minute to really get used to him with those teeth, and he kept putting his bottom jaw up.
Yeah, it was on purpose. I was like, sure.
Yeah,
like highlight it.
Yeah, I was like, that's a weird look for you.
Yeah,
I feel like his relationship with the other key character, Lily Gladstone, who's Molly Booker, is really central to this story. And the really interesting piece that runs through this, and we kind of tried to work this out on air, off air beforehand, to kind of, get our teeth into what we're trying to talk to here, is like, does he truly love this person who he ends up marrying? Or is he just doing it for the cash? Or is he even being manipulated? Or is he the happening from 2006? I don't know what's happening in this film.
Yeah, was he actually in love, and how dumb was he really?
Yeah,
if you boil it down.
Because he plays he plays a half-wit, right? Like he thinks he's super intelligent, but he's really not.
He is pretty dumb.
Yes.
I think that is clear.
Yes.
Now, how dumb is he? Like,
how dumb is he?
Like, he definitely knew
he knew he was being manipulated, but almost couldn't stop it.
I think it was he knew he was being manipulated, and frankly, he knew what he was doing, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that eventually comes out by the last couple frames of the film. But they almost tried to play it like he wasn't sure for bits.
Sure.
But when it was best, I think with Leo, it was when you could tell he was working through his internal guilt
Yeah.
by like basically being willfully obtuse.
Sure.
You know, like that. And that was like a really, that performance played through in his I got that from the way he acted it out.
Okay.
Like that was a guy that, like, I think the canon version of this is he did know what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he was willfully stopping himself from believing it. What I didn't get from it is why. I didn't see him doing all this affluent stuff. I saw him do a couple bets.
I think he lost a lot of money doing betting.
Yeah, but they didn't really dig into that.
But he also had really bad, like, talking about the surrounding cast, who were great, by the way. He had really bad influences around him who were making him do stuff like gamble his money away, or, you know, even be part of the ring who would go and rob a store. Like, you know what I mean? Like, doing dumb shit like that when he's got all this money. It's like, why? So maybe I think it's trying to portray a man who is just in it for the kicks and loves the money but doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. The hard part for me though about it all is like I found him very difficult. Like I thought his Leo's performance was good and like fun to watch.
Yep.
But to a degree, like there was a lot of redundant conversations of like people telling him, hey, you know, you got to do this. You understand? And it's like, yeah, I get it, I guess. Like, and there was like, that happened so many times in the film where he's like being convinced to do something that he probably knows he does. Like, he doesn't really want to do it, but he also knows he should, because this is what he's kind of dumb and he's being trained up to do. And I just didn't find his character that exciting to root for.
Well, there's no one to root for in this film.
Yeah, there's no one to root for. And it's like, I found it like,
outside of Molly,
as a main character, I feel like you need more.
Yeah.
You know, like other than that, like, which was well acted, but like not exactly super engaging for a 3.5 hour ride.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
You know,
completely agree with that. Who were you supposed to root for in this?
I mean, the Osage for sure.
Yeah.
But like the point being, when that character is very also willfully obtuse, like in a lot of ways.
She is.
Like,
she clearly, like, very early on in the film falls for Leo. Yeah. And I would personally say, like, maybe a little bit opposed to what you were saying there. Like, I think it's real love what they're going through. Like, initially, I think he sort of maneuvered that way by King, as in Leo's character.
I think he fell in love.
But I think he falls in love, and he is in love with his wife.
That's fair. And at the start, it's not as sinister.
Yes.
Like, that is clear that, like, the sinisterness of this kind of rises through the years. But, like, you know what I mean? I don't think that Leo's character knows the end game for the first half of the movie. I think the second half, though, he's like, it's a lot harder to stand by and say, like, the second half of the movie, it changes. We'll talk about that in a bit. If he was in love, it wouldn't have carried on the way it carries on.
Interesting.
At a point in time, he fell in love, but it's like hard to rationalize how you could, you know, do some of the stuff that we end up seeing to someone you love.
I think in terms of the world he's built here, Scorsese, like, it is fascinating and really beautifully done. Quite touching. You know, he has used just a lot of indigenous actors who maybe haven't had acting credits before, but really great. I like, genuinely, the mom, Lily Gladstone's mom in this, I don't have a name written down, but she's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, just a hard ass mom who, like, and then there's a bit where she, like, tells her daughter she's her favorite daughter, and you're like, whoa,
she doesn't give a fuck.
This is brutal. But, like, that's kind of the life they're living. It's a brutal life. And people are just dying all around them. She's probably just terrified that someone's going to turn around the corner and, like, shoot her.
Yeah.
Like, that world they built of brutality, and, like, it's beautifully done. Like, the outfits and stuff are amazing, but like, one of the very first scenes in this, you're being introduced into the indigenous families who are just being killed off. A dude just pops his hand out a window and shoots one in the chest.
Yeah.
And then, like, drops the gun in her hand. It's like, bro, like, who shoots himself in the chest?
Pretty dumb.
Well, she's, like, holding a baby or something. Man, it's brutal.
There's a lot of that. And I guess, like, that was, like, an interesting part about it until it wasn't a mystery.
Yes.
You know, and then it becomes like, okay, so it's not a mystery pretty early on.
After, like, an hour.
For an astute viewer, 30 minutes in. Probably. You know what I mean? For like maybe the not as actively analyzing, like, longer. But
so
still,
I was about 2 hours. Now, kidding.
For the dum-dums like Tommy.
Hello.
3 hours and 15 minutes. Yes. Basically, once he was convicted.
When the conviction fell, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Innocent until proven guilty. 100%.
I'm a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
No, I'm not, by the way.
The point being, like, I just, you know, I needed, what else was there to dig into while we know what we know about how this is going and who's doing it all? Not that much.
No. But the performances were pretty, like, so the interesting thing I found about De Niro's character.
The acting was great.
De Niro was like hands down one of the best characters in this, full stop. The layers of intrigue to him just built up and up and up. Like the bit where he shows a stonemason and just spanks Leonardo DiCaprio, like out of nowhere. You're just like, well, that's a weird shot. Like scene to be filming with another man, you know what I mean? I think you never got fully how deep his, I don't know, wickedness went.
He's just like the classic. I think the cool part about him is like he's the classic megalomaniac, titan of industry who like, like you think you've done everything for everyone and that makes you unstoppable.
Untouchable.
And really, a lot of people helped you along the way.
Yes.
And you think you attribute it all to yourself over the time, or like even just like a lucky break that helps make you, right? Like,
well, that's it. Everyone in the town's in on this.
As they get higher, as you get more, power, people, forget how they actually got there.
He's like a mafioso.
Yeah.
Seriously. And everyone's in on it. Like the doctors, the insurance people. It's maddening watching. And I think that's probably how you're supposed to feel watching this film. The sense of injustice.
That is literally the
angles.
point.
Yeah, literally. And you get that so early on. And I guess what we're trying to get at, the real challenge with this is that it's just hammered into you over and over and over again.
It's not really subtly done.
But I think that's also the point. Like, it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, you're right. It's like it wasn't then either. You know what I mean? Like, and it was still that much more shocking. I guess like I would have liked more of the political intrigue.
Same.
Like, show me something else that's happening during this time period about the creation of the FBI. Show me something to take myself away from just this and like maybe investigate like the reality of bureaucracy and how it fails.
Yeah. I mean,
not just the fact that it's late. Like,
I was going to say exactly that. Like Jesse Plemons, one of the FBI agents who turns up.
He's good as well.
He's really good.
Yeah.
To me, he's like the new Philip Seymour Hoffman. He even kind of looks like him. He's got that kind of.
He's a bit too good.
If he could do a good villain, I think he could be that next, Philip Seymour Hoffman. But talking of him, the FBI play a big role in this, but not big enough. I feel like the FBI coming in halfway through a 3.5 hour movie, getting fobbed off by everyone. So this is the FBI's first ever job, right? That's the point of this. As in they've been created by J. Edgar Hoover. They then have to go and prove themselves. And the way they do that is by taking on this big mystery that no one can solve.
How about like, what if we just didn't know certain characters were FBI? And they're with them throughout the movie.
Well, you didn't. That was
but
the
like
indigenous...
doing that more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
there was an indigenous actor who was with them a lot, the tall guy.
Yeah.
He came in slightly earlier than everyone else, and you saw him around the town.
Yeah.
He started popping up, and I knew from the moment he was there, I was like, that guy's definitely something to do with the police.
Yeah, well, because you were waiting. Like, when are they going to come
something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Did you know, just talking about Jesse Plemons before I move on, he actually turned down Nope to do this. A movie that we've actually talked about.
Oh, was he gonna be in Nope?
So he was gonna be Jupe in Nope.
Was that the tech guy?
I think
Jupe. The video.
No. Sorry, Jupe was the guy who saw the chimp kill all the peoples.
Oh, really?
And became the amusement. Yeah, he'd have been good for that.
Yeah, he
would have been really good for that. I think Stephen Young got that part in the end, but I thought he was really good in this. I mentioned Blackie as well before. Like that character, like
he had the only joke in the movie. What was it?
Joke.
Well, obviously not, because I'm standing right here talking to you.
Well, that was a part of the movie that made me laugh, because when Leo DiCaprio feels like he's in on everything and he's really not, and he's like, it's all part of the plan, and Blackie's like, well, clearly not, dipshit.
Yeah, like his plan. You mean the plan that got us here, bro?
Yeah. Now I need to ask you this one thing before we move on from like performances. Which was your favorite Leonardo DiCaprio hair in this? Because his hair was doing some serious performing.
And it was mainly middle part the whole time.
Oh no! Well, there were times when it was beautifully combed middle part, and then you like
I hate the middle part.
Oh, so bad.
Yeah,
it looked awful at every moment.
Yeah.
There were bits when it was all you knew his state of mind in any scene by how his hair was. So if it was like all crumpled and like down at the front, he was riled up.
Yeah.
But if it was like back and swept, he was trying to make himself look good for the wife. Or when it was middle parted, I was like, his hair's doing a lot of work in this film for him.
Yeah. I mean, like his hair does not look good with the middle part. He needs to do the side part.
Well, he's got one of those hairlines that is kind of pointy at the front, so you can't really do a middle part to it.
Yeah.
So it kind of points off to it's an interesting haircut.
Yeah.
Doesn't suit him.
Did not.
He's going back a little bit though.
I don't think many people can do a middle part and pull it off.
I don't know. That's my hair's go-to when it gets too long.
Middle part.
It sort of like it naturally kind of flops.
Huh.
Your hair kind of goes middle part.
Mine would go a little bit middle part, but I would
Not right now. You're a tennis ball.
I would force it to go side part. I don't let it middle part.
Brilliant. I think we've sort of really talked the pacing of this movie to death, but I just want to really like hone in on this. And the pacing's tough to talk to because it is intentionally long, is intentionally dour, whichever you choose.
Yeah.
Is it poorly paced? Or is it just so depressing that by halfway through, you're like, I wish this would end?
There are
that's
a combination of answers here. I think that there's definitely redundancy in this movie.
Yes, agreed.
Like there's fat for sure. Like of scenes that are doing the same things that of scenes before them, especially with Leo's character.
Too much over talking of things.
Yeah. So I would say that there's definitely things you could cut that would help the pacing. I think that having some kind of mystery or someone
there's nothing wrong with being entertained.
Oh, yeah. Or someone even discovering something or some kind of added element of not just one idiot, one super smart guy, both doing really villainous acts.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other people that are just for some reason nonplussed and not really understanding what's happening.
Or just doing it, just being along for the ride.
Yeah.
Interestingly, you say that there's one line in this movie that really stands out to me, and it's I was talking about Ty Mitchell, the guy with the milky eye, really tall, great mustache. But there's a bit when Leonardo DiCaprio says to him, like, I need you to murder a guy for me. He's like, oh, I can't do this for you. And he's like, it's an Indian. And he goes, oh, okay, then that's fine. Like, I feel like that is just indicative of this movie. That one line there it's like, you are just supposed to feel like the indigenous peoples are treated as less than human the whole time. And it's really rammed home at every opportunity that it can possibly get.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no real,
I would say the pacing is too slow.
Yeah. There's
too long.
No real action in this.
Net.
Yeah. Yeah. Slow and long. Oof. I mean, we get back to the swarm.
You compare this movie to the intricate plot of The Departed.
Yeah, of course.
Or Shutter Island. And it's just so different. It's such a different kind of movie.
I mean, it's inflating his wings, and I've saved some questions about that specifically for after spoilers because there's a couple of bits to talk to. But there's some of the cinematography in this to me is just so amazing. There's a scene where I'm not sure why, but I think it's King's house gets set on fire or the farm or whatever it is. And everyone's trying to put it out with their hammers. I'm not sure why you would put out fire with your hammer. Seems counterintuitive. But there's a shot that Scorsese's created where it's through the haze of the fire and everything is still that bright crimson orange.
That was super cool.
And it's amazing. And it goes.
But why were they haying away the fire?
I don't understand that.
It didn't make any sense.
I don't understand that personally. It's a bit silly to me. But there are lots of good elements in here that I like. And there are things that I'm like, this is good. I like that. It's just stretched over such an amount of time.
It's well acted. It's well shot. It's frankly well written.
It should be amazing.
The plot just there wasn't really one.
Yeah.
I think that's it. There wasn't everything's pretty detailed within the first 30 minutes and we're just watching it unfold. It would have been nice to weave viewer expectations a bit more.
Yeah, agreed.
I think that's the only thing. I just like to be,
Well, the original draft was written from the perspective of the FBI agents coming in and trying to work out this mystery. And I think that would be a very interesting story. It doesn't need to, you can have the feelings that we came away from this movie having. All the, the indigenous people being effectively run out of their own town, been
you
assassinated.
Can investigate the Osaka.
That's what I'm saying.
Osage, story in that way as well. It doesn't even necessarily need to be the perspective of the detective to involve them earlier. You can still investigate the heart of the Osage people. I think that's totally something you can still do within the context of more of a mystery element or.
Completely agree.
I guess just the FBI's involvement earlier. Basically, you needed a good guy to fight for. There was no one to fight
to root for
in this movie.
Completely. The other thing I was going to ask you was, do you feel for a movie which is so overwhelmingly charged with driving you towards white guilt, which it is, picking a white man to be the face of the majority of the film, Leo DiCaprio, do you feel like that's a bit of a misstep?
I don't know if it's a misstep. I just I don't know what the point was.
Why focus on him? Why not have Molly as the main character?
Well, I guess
or anyone else, and even have one of the other indigenous folks who is trying to solve this, trying to get attention from the the government, from the police, trying to get anyone to look into it, and is failing. That would be an interesting story.
I mean, maybe part of it is, and I'm sure Scorsese would talk about it a bit, like in the interviews, but maybe part of it is like investigating how you feel about this character and like how much you're willing to like let him slide with, how much you're willing to like buy into his narrative, because you don't actually see him do something for the first half. Like the first half, you don't see him do anything,
and then
then they start to reveal that it was him, and so it's like, even though we all knew it was kind of. And I guess my point is like, maybe maybe part of it is like a self-investigation of, oh, he's white, he's good looking, he seems like he loves her. How long are you willing to believe this?
Yeah.
Like I could see, but if so, it wasn't really well done.
I guess for me, like, so just to frame that up a little bit, he does a bunch of like murders. He stops people investigating the town.
Yeah.
He steals because it's fun, I assume. Like he just steals from people, and like all these like not really pet murder isn't a petty crime, but like all these sort of in the scheme of this grand murder conspiracy, like petty things that are happening.
It's more
to
grunt work.
Slow it down. Yeah. And I guess from my perspective, it's more, the reason I wasn't feeling like it was Leo for a lot of it is like, why would he need to? I get it, but from the end of it, you understand he's been manipulated all the way through, but he's got enough money. He doesn't need to steal this stuff. He has a comfortable life. Why is he?
If he loved his wife, he could tell them to fuck off and just live a good life.
But then I feel like King has that power over him because he brought him into that lifestyle.
Well, it's true. I mean, people are dying left and right. There's also that element. Like if you don't comply, are you the next one dead?
Yeah, and if you're exactly, you brought into this way of lifestyle
that enough. Like
no.
How much of it was like a tyranny of that as well? Like. You know what I mean? Like that would have been an interesting angle, but it kind of always felt like Leo was destined to be one of the last dudes there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've talked tones and themes quite a lot while we've been going on about it, and I laughed that in my tones and theme section, I must have forgotten to remove something from last week. So it says, "Don't fuck with bees." I don't think that's certainly not appropriate for this film. But like, you know, the human condition. Are we like truly that despicable that we would look down on other humans? Yes, it happens all over the world. Money corrupts, money blinds.
Affirmative, Ghost Rider.
You know, like it's all there. It's just spread out over nearly 3.5 hours, which is physical pain. So what we do now, guys, is we talk a little bit about 3 best and 3 worst before we give you some spoilers. And what that is it's 3 reasons why you might want to watch this film and 3 reasons why you might not. Deal?
Yeah, let's
3
do it.
best.
Acting is good.
Very good.
I think I just said him earlier. The authenticity
Ooh,
the authenticity of the experience is like it feels real.
That's a great way of saying
everything around it feels real, including the like mad emotional toll it takes to watch this movie.
And that is real because you come away for days.
Yeah.
I've kind of put that with the world building, but I feel that encapsulates what I was trying to say way better.
And then I would say, I guess I really liked. What else is there to say? Acting. I mean, like it was beautiful in a lot of ways, and like
I had the visuals.
Yeah, like it for sure.
Yeah,
like I was never like, oh, this is like a bad choice editing wise or dialogue wise. Sometimes it was. Anytime there was a bad, it was because it was like it was already done well, and you didn't need to do it again.
Yeah.
So that'd be.
I mean, he's a fantastic director.
Yeah.
So I've got the visuals too. I've got obviously the world building, and just De Niro, man. Like he was given so much scenery to chew in this. I feel like he was just given some free reign to be a bit like, you can really make this character your own.
Yeah, he had the better role, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think in real life that character was that much older. I think he was like in his 50s, whereas De Niro is like in his 80s. What are your worst?
De Niro's in his 80s?
I think so, yeah.
Good for his 80s. I'd say the length, not enough to Leo's character. If he's the main character, I think you need more. As intriguing as he was to watch act as a conflicted, morally, compromised, but also still very much in love in portions.
Yeah.
With his wife character. And I guess the other worst would, man. I think I would just make some changes to the plot.
I mean,
to be honest.
I had the length too, and I think you're right. Like the length, I think the length leads into the plot because the plot has to kind of trundle along
with the length,
because it just goes on so much. And then agreeing with you, this undeserved feeling of white guilt, the whole way you're going through it, I'm like, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Like, I feel bad for you guys.
I didn't do
how can I help? But like, I can't change other people's ancestors' behaviors. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I guess that's kind of like my point.
I like to think we're quite progressive, as people.
There is a way to there is a point to a film that makes you feel like super, super shit.
Yeah.
And I get that. But my earlier point, like around like a film that does that in a way where also you have some semblance of hope for like what the one good person can do.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, it doesn't work.
Agree.
But the fact that somebody created the FBI because actually this seemed ridiculous. Like how many people, like, you know what I mean? Like, and then like the fighting through bureaucracy, like could that inspire someone to go fight through bureaucracy? Like I need something else other than pure white guilt depression for 3 hours.
Agreed.
And maybe that's because it's me, but I honestly, I don't know. I would be curious if an indigenous person watched this movie if they found it enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That would
Like
be really interesting.
Because it's like part of them is probably like, sure, I empathize with this, but like I want to see the conversation she went and had with someone that got them to come out.
Yeah.
Because that's someone who fought for like she didn't even get enough time to like be shown there.
Get any,
you know what I mean? Like that because that's also
that.
inspiring. That inspires that side of the kind of dynamic to be like
absolutely 100%.
more heroic.
But let's talk a bit about critical reception then. So can you guess me the current IMDb score for this?
Fuck, I have no idea. IMDb, it's Scorsese. People will show up, but it feels like it should be like a 7.5.
An 8.1.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I had a feeling it would be higher,
high.
But it should be a 7.5.
Can you guess me the Rotten Tomatoes?
Critic like 86, audience like 62.
93. 93% of Rotten Tomatoes. And finally, guess me our favorite letterbox, which is effectively all user scores.
3.5.
And is usually 3.5.
3.5?
It's 4.3. People really like.
I mean, it is a good movie. It
is. It's tough.
It's just I'm not going to watch it again.
Neither. You'll watch like The Departed. You'll go back and
I'm not going to watch it again.
I just don't have the impetus.
Maybe one time in the background at some point while I'm also doing something else.
Even if like the partner's like, "Hey, I didn't get to see that with you. I'd really like to see it." I'd be like, "I'm gonna go out for 3 days, and you can finish it in your own time." Like
I don't know. I might like tune in, but like I'd never watch front to back full.
No,
it's a bit. It's like not sure what I'd pick up either. You know what I mean?
Like when old mate Zack Snyder released his Justice League cut, and it was like 4 hours, and everyone was like, could you not have just released this in like episodes? Like it would have made way more sense. Okay, then. So what we do now is we talk our rating system, which is very simple. So that we see the internet as completely binary. So this is either better or worse than the most average film we know, which as of right now is still Aquaman 2018. And we say why. DL, better or worse than Aquaman 2018?
Gotta be better because it's Scorsese, but
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I was entertained in Aquaman. At least I came out and I was like, I have no idea what happened in that film, but I was
that I
entertained.
felt something though. I'll tell you what, like I was just like watching this movie, and we're about to be in spoilers, so I'm going to talk about it. Watching this guy slowly poison his wife.
Yeah.
Like it was visceral for me. I was like, how could anyone, like, I was like, I was like, there's no scenario where I would do anything even remotely close to 100th of this. To the part, and what I will say is it made me like investigate like what are the things that you do of your scale that to torment your partner in stupid ways that you could just be better at. Like,
so many things. Like
I leave the lights on.
Like, I could be way better at torturing your partner. To be quite frank with you, I just need to fuck with their OCD.
But you know what? You get my point. Like it made me feel like, dude, what is wrong with you? And I guess there's some. I don't know if there's value in that, but it made me feel. Aquaman didn't make me feel.
You've changed my mind. Yeah. I was gonna say, just be controversial and say worse, because honestly, it was just so much and so long. But if the point is to make you feel and come out of this with a certain mindset, it 100% achieved that, and fair play to it.
Yes.
But so let's talk a little bit about spoilers. There's not a lot to spoil, and one of the key things is that Leo's wife, Molly, has diabetes.
Yes.
And they want to keep her alive long enough that he can inherit all the money from the family, but also kind of keep her quiet about what's happening around the town. So they're slowly poisoning her over time, which is rough as all guts,
fucking
right?
Brutal, dude.
So grim. But like, there are parts of it where you feel like he really still loves her, and he is in bed, like, upset that this is happening to her.
But it's like the cognitive dissonance. Like I guess like,
is he just that broken down?
How thick can you be, dude?
But could he also be maybe suffering from some like PTSD and stuff as well from the war? Am I really digging here? I'm just not sure.
There's like a carnal feeling
Yeah.
of like guilt that has to win out.
Yeah.
And you see him suffering with it.
And
you do see him suffer through the whole movie.
Yeah.
So it's like he knows.
Yeah.
He knows.
Agreed. And guilt does eventually win out.
Yeah.
So what happens is he is asked to testify in front of a jury that his uncle is the mastermind, effectively.
Yeah. And
King, De Niro's character.
This is his
moment to come clean.
Yeah, basically. Well, it's gotten to the point where they've killed so many people, the FBI has him caught red-handed.
Yeah.
And he's the fall guy.
Yeah.
And he instantly caves. that was funny because it takes like one witness for him to like, one guy below him that reported up that he did it for him to instantly cave. And he
did it, right?
Yeah, and he could have just been like, I don't know this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
He didn't show. Yeah, sure. Maybe he said that. There's nothing you can, like.
You can't prove it.
Fucking dude stole it. He got convicted. I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all he had to do.
Yeah.
And he instantly caved.
Instantly. And in doing so, he ruins his own life as well as obviously King's. But I feel like this is his admission of, I fucked up. I've been doing the wrong thing the whole time. I feel like that's his way of trying to absolve himself. His
For sure.
deathbed
Eventually, he did. My
prayer.
soul is clean, he says.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, he does.
And to be fair, I think he did come around to it. The question is just like, if you were capable of that then, why couldn't you have been capable of it earlier?
Well, yeah.
And I guess I wish there was more veiled threats to Leo.
Sure.
To like help us understand how he could ever do this.
Or just anything. Like I've got here, like I was just suspecting there was going to be a twist all the way through. There had to be
I said that
something.
in the movie. I was like, surely there's a twist.
Yeah, you even turned to me and said that. And I'm like, there wasn't. And the lack of intrigue and the lack of something to dig your teeth into it kind of let it down.
Yeah. Especially when like in the back half, when the main actress, what's her name?
Molly. That's the character.
She's great.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
She was awesome.
Lily
but then by
Gladstone.
the end of the movie, she's like half dead. Like for the last
and that's
half.
what
And
I wonder.
The movie loses a lot of steam because of her, like,
because she's a great character.
Yeah, she was.
And I wonder if part of the reason the movie doesn't follow her is because half of the movie she's taken out of it by this poisoning.
Yeah,
which is an interesting point of view. One thing I did want to ask you before we wrap this up is, so this movie had a $200 million budget.
Really?
And its opening weekend only made $44 million. That's not what you want to hear, okay? And his last couple of movies, well, one was The Irishman, straight to Netflix, also had a big budget, incredibly long, got good reviews, people saying very similar things, like very long, like the CGI is a bit ropey, like the story's interesting, but it doesn't go anywhere. Is Scorsese still untouchable?
I mean, fucking those reviews point to it, yeah.
That's what I'm asking.
Well,
I'm asking you as a...
How do you define untouchable? Will he get another movie? Yes.
But will he get complete free reign like he clearly has for the last few movies?
Apple will do it.
That's fair. Someone will
at least
keep
2
him
more.
happy.
Amazon will do it.
Someone will keep him happy.
Disney's got one.
When does his stock start to fall? Is
3
what I'm
more.
asking you. You think he's got
run
3?
out of the mega streamers?
Wow. That's fair.
No, like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that some of my favorite movies are Martin Scorsese movies.
Agreed. You do like Martin Scorsese movies.
I'm going to be honest.
Yes. Please, God, be honest, Dre.
The last one that I've like truly loved and feel like I would watch again because I haven't seen the Irishman is the Wolf of Wall Street,
which was also very long.
Very long, more entertaining though.
Oh,
more
that was
funny,
so
more
entertaining.
humor. Point being, like, even that one wasn't my all-time like favorite. Most of my favorites are, from over almost 15 years ago now.
Google saying The Wolf of Wall Street is 4 hours. I don't believe that for one moment.
It is long. I don't think
it's not long. 4 hours.
No.
Camel, mate. IMDb saying it's 3 hours. I think that's more likely, let's be frank. But that is just pure entertainment value all the way through.
Yeah.
A movie.
My point is, like, I haven't seen one. Like, my favorite ones are now, I'm trying to go, they're probably 15 years old.
Yeah. When was Wolf of Wall Street out?
2019, so that one's newer. So 2010, literally. Shutter Island 2010, 15 years ago almost.
That's crazy.
14. And then before that would be, The Departed.
Isn't it fucked up, by the way, saying 2010 is nearly 15 years ago? Isn't that physical pain?
Yeah, it is. When was The Departed made?
Wasn't that before Shutter Island? I'm pretty sure
it was. So, like, all my favorites were kind of within that streak of...
Yeah.
He had, like, The Departed. He had...
2006.
Yeah, 2006. He had Shutter Island. He had Gangs of New York. Those are all like, some of those are 20 years old.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, like the ones that I
still
know
making
and
relevant
love him
movies?
for,
Yeah.
like it's been a bit.
That's what I'm asking you, DL.
Yeah.
I personally would say, yeah, you're probably right. He's probably got one, maybe two more, but Untouchable's hard at that point. When you start to lose that much money off such a high budget, people are going to start to want to see a cut of it before you put it out. Like, I don't, but then man's
Or
like
just give
80
him a
now.
lower budget, you know.
Well,
Does he
that's the
need it?
problem. That's the problem. You're trying to get Leonardo DiCaprio in a movie. This is the highest he got paid for a movie ever. He got $30 million. So there's where some of that $200 million went.
That's wild, though. Why does
Tell me, right?
Why does he need 30 million?
Well, I mean, he probably does what he wants at this point. But anyway, DL, let's wrap this shit up.
Yeah.
Trivia, true or false? You down?
Yeah, I'm in.
I know you're in. So, true or false? The investigation, mate. I went full Aussie there. The investigation
That was not bad.
into Osage Country was the first investigation presented to the newly formed Federal Bureau of Investigation. True or is that false? I think I've told you this at least 3 times.
It's definitely true.
It is, and it was led by J. Edgar Hoover. I find that fascinating, and it's interesting where the guy in the movie's like, who's this J. Edgar Hoover? And it's like,
Yeah.
one day to be president.
Yeah.
You know? That's super interesting. Okay. True or false? Leonardo DiCaprio was initially cast to play the FBI agent Tom White.
True.
True. Is that false?
True.
It is true. After all, they decided to change the focus of the film to investigate the relationship between Molly and Ernest. DiCaprio switched roles and Jesse Plemons was brought in. It's interesting that that was originally the idea, I find, that it was more focused on the FBI and Leo would head that up because
it's more like
interesting.
I mean, it's definitely like a less meaty role for him to dig into as an actor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a more like fun role, like more traditional Leo role that I've liked him in. He's doing a lot of stuff that's like out there and I get it. And he's trying to explore it. Like, you know, but to me, that would have been, I would have liked that more as a Leo fan and a Scorsese fan because I think he just plays that character.
Interestingly, he did a lot of ad-libbing in the film and Scorsese and De Niro got pissed off at him for constantly doing that. I mean, yeah, I can see that.
But some of the great things that he's done were ad-libs, so you can't really hate on it. Like the blood smear in Django was ad-libbed.
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a very good point. All right, last one then. True or false, DL? Ben Affleck had initially expressed interest in directing a film adaptation of David Grann's non-fiction book, Killers of the Flower Moon. Is that true or is that false?
True.
Not actually. It was George Clooney who wanted to direct it.
Nobody cares.
Both gray white men.
Both failed.
What can you say? George Clooney does all right.
Scorsese got it.
I mean, yeah, they failed to get this goddamn movie. That's true. Look, guys, thank you for sticking with it. We didn't make this podcast go on as long as this movie does. I think my wrapping up thoughts are, if you love Scorsese, go and see it. But it's just so long.
I'll see every Scorsese movie, frankly.
Well, that's what we were talking about
Doesn't
before.
mean I won't fall asleep.
Yeah.
I
was very close a bunch of times in this film. DL, do you want to wrap up the show, my man?
I do. A big thank you to Matthew Bliss for editing and mastering this week's episode. And if you'd like to hire anyone to edit your podcast, Matthew's the guy. Head to MatthewBliss.net and book a consultation. Not today, because it's 9 p.m. tomorrow.
For us, it is. For the person listening to this podcast, it could be any time for you. Do it right now.
Yeah,
what are you waiting for?
Book it in a timely fashion.
Yeah. In fact, no, don't do that. Book it once you've given us a 5-star review for this podcast, as you can do for Matthew's podcast.
If you want to hear his work, listen to From My Home to Yours, Matthew's podcast, as Tommy said. An expat repat podcast where Matt and his wife share their experiences and advice and thoughts for those moving, expatting, etc., etc.
And if you like what you're hearing on this podcast, I might be making an appearance at some point in the near future on that. Ooh. So he's bringing it back, baby. But My Home Job's coming back. And I have...
Also The Dead Drop.
The Dead Drop too. I have obviously got experience of moving from country to country, so I'm sure I can bring something other than my wit and charm.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Learn something every...
DL, thanks for popping by, mate.
Yeah, of course, man. Tally-o.
Tally-ho, baby!
Laters, Gators.